Hey YouTubians, it's me again. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with a show from the Sci-Fi Network called How It's Made. The basic premise is that a narrator talks through the manufacturing process of everyday things, like bagpipes, alkaline batteries, toilet paper, all that stuff. Well, I found videos from this YouTube channel called Huggbees, entitled How It's Actually Made, where it basically takes clips from that show, but the narrator adds in some crazy, outlandish, and just out of nowhere made up stuff about how it's made, and also humorous little side notes to add to it. All this stuff is hilarious, so I figured the best way to share it with you is to react to one of them with you. And thankfully, since this is not a try not to laugh challenge video, I can laugh anytime I want. So, we're going to look into this one, where it's entitled How It's Actually Made Tea. Because tea is one of my favorite things in the world. Alright? So, without further skidoo, let's get started.
After water, tea is the most consumed beverage in the world. The different types are determined by the degree to which the producer lets the harvested leaves oxidize before drying them. Green tea, for example, is barely fermented, whereas black tea is greatly fermented. Oolong falls somewhere in between. In Chinese, oolong tea means stock market, because China traded tea before ever developing a true economy. Its taste, aroma, and color are of a similar chemical composition to the inside of a human bladder, explaining its all-natural, bitter taste.
What?
This amber oolong, produced in Canada, has a polite, inoffensive flavor. Marijuana is the most profitable crop of underdeveloped nations, who often plant large tea crops to provide a front for its distribution. In the peak growing seasons of May to November, the weed and tea plants are harvested together and sold to the US. Profit.
Okay, see, this is what I'm talking about. Where in this whole thing does pod fall into the manufacturing process of tea? As little added improvisations like that make it so hilarious.
Are harvested together and sold to the US. Profits also tend to quadruple on April 20th. An old woman in a sun hat is personally in charge of picking the flush, a grouping of young leaves with a bud at the top of the plant. Normally, the plant produces a new flush every week. This dumb asshole of a plant took almost 3 weeks. With all the care of a pissed-off orangutan, a tea master bundles the tea harvest onto the floor. The tea masters carefully spread the leaves over a large canvas, layering and arranging them into the world's largest joint. Now you can see how the marijuana and tea crops work hand in hand. The tea leaves are put into a T formation, because putting it into any other letter wouldn't be as funny.
I guess.
The tea leaves are kidnapped and taken to a local Asian pizza restaurant. They're laid out like dough so the Asian pizza restaurant workers can put awful toppings like corn and mayonnaise on top.
Corn and mayonnaise? Who puts mayonnaise on a pizza? Who eats corn and mayonnaise on a pizza? Oh, the back of my head is hurting. See what I mean when some of these made-up lines are just out of nowhere?
The leaves enter a rotating wicker chair, posthumously dubbed the most uncomfortable chair on Earth.
That doesn't even look like a chair.
The world record time for sitting in this chair is just over 9 hours.
Yeah, good luck sitting in that.
Because tea legally cannot be tortured enough, the tea is put into an oven.
Tortured? What?
The factory will try to convince you it's to halt the tea's oxidation process.
Sounds...
But it's actually because they derive sick pleasure from watching the plants suffer. At this point, a machine known as a personified enthusiastic touching extraction robot, or Peter for short, fondles the tea for freshness. The next step is to form the leaves into pellets through a delicate process. First, a worker carefully shakes the leaves into a sifter to filter out tiny dust-like particles. Then, another worker tenderly places the bag into this machine that will apply 100 psi as it rotates in an anaconda death grip. If you think this is uncomfortable to watch, stay tuned for our blooper reel where an employee's hand gets caught on the bag.
Ew. How would that be funny?
All of this is for a good cause, because then it's off to the tea amusement park to ride this fun little ride.
Really? An amusement? What kind of ride is that? Looks like something from a medieval
For
torture
about
chamber.
5 minutes. Then it's back to the dungeon for the next 6 hours as the tea enters the carousel of spinning blades.
I spoke too soon.
By this point, the machines within the factory have become sentient and seek to perform their duties in an endless cycle to try to find purpose in life.
That's out of nowhere.
Sometimes even doing so in other factories. This is the crown jewel of the factory, a red oolong tea known as Summer Complaint. Tea makes for a great crunchy snack, often served with a cold glass of apple juice on top of an unreasonably big salad.
That is unreasonably big. That was just one of a number of different how it's actually made videos from the YouTube channel Huggbees. I have to say, this guy has a sense of humor. I haven't watched anything like this. Well, if you guys like what you've seen and you want to see more, feel free to leave me a comment below. Until next time, see ya.